Hi, my name's Leo and I'm a boat builder and a sailor. A few years ago I bought a very old and quite famous wooden sailing boat for the price of $1, and since then I've been rebuilding that boat from the keel up with the help of a lot of amazing people. In this video we've got a lot going on. Below deck we're going to be looking at a very impressive electrical panel. We're going to be installing the main steering compass and a lot of other important deck hardware. We're going to be building a cover over the deck of Tally-Ho to protect from the elements. But first of all, we're going to check in with Patrick. He has been installing some port lights in the cockpit footwell.
Is that right? Why putting port lights in the cockpit? Well, natural light, ventilation. As I was putting the port light in on the engine room side, Joe Smith made the observation that it'd be really nice to be able to monitor whether or not there's a fire in the engine room while underway in the cockpit. So, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well now it's time to check in with Joe Smith from Ocean Systems, and of course Joe is leading the entire systems installation on Tally-Ho, and he's been spending a lot of time recently working on the main electrical panel, which is in the nav area sort of next to the chart table. So let's go and see what's new.
I'm sitting next to the future nav station, which is the central area where most of the wires terminate. It's where there's going to be circuit protection and switches and marine electronics. There's going to be a VHF radio, a flat screen display for charts and radar and depth sounder and some gauges and alarms, and yeah, a lot of stuff all kind of comes together. I wouldn't call it the heart of the system. I think that's under the stairs, but this might be sort of the brains. A big key part of the panel is not here. There's a face plate that has circuit breakers in it, and that the actual devices will mount on, that will get mounted in the front here. So yeah, on this side we have AC. The AC circuit breakers are just circuit breakers. They're not going to be used for switching devices. Switches will be elsewhere, so they will be behind the cabinet and hidden. Behind them is all the AC terminal blocks where the actual devices hook up, and each wire on one side terminal block goes to a designated breaker. On the other side, we have lower voltage connections, 12 volts mostly. This is what I call a 24-hour service. It's for things that we don't want people to ever you have to really be smart to know how to turn it off. We don't want people to casually turn it off, so there'll be alarms and bilge pump. A lot of stuff still to install, but to me it feels like some of the biggest stuff is getting behind me, so it feels good.
That's awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing there?
All the better for seeing a nice big hole in the deck.
Yeah, we've got a lovely mushroom vent that's going to go right here. Bloop. And I'm cutting a hole to fit it.
Excellent. So Patrick has been busy making lots of holes in the deck. The hole that he just made is for a mushroom vent that's to help ventilate the head, and that vent is now installed in place.
If anyone's wondering why all of our bronze hardware on deck is starting to look a little tarnished, is because we've been pickling the deck twice a week. We've been scrubbing it down with salt water. First of all, to discourage any presence of fresh water on deck, and also to, sorry, what was the other reason? To make sure that the deck planks are taking up and the seams are staying tight.
And all this blazing sunlight we're getting.
And all this crazy 4,000 winter sunlight.
Next, he's going to be installing the steering compass. Now, he's already drilled the hole for that because it's a flush mounted compass, so it mounts on deck and then part of the compass mechanism goes through the deck. So he's cut the hole for that, he's just got to install it. It's located just in front of the cockpit, between the cockpit and the companionway hatch, in a position where it can be easily seen from the steering or helming position, where you'll sit in the cockpit with the tiller.
Hey, Nick.
You wanted to get footage of me coming out of this hole?
I sure did.
Now, I posted a picture of the mounted compass a little while ago on my social media, on Facebook and Instagram and Patreon, and so that's a good way to get little updates if you're not already following them. But I know from the comments on there that some people are going to be concerned with the location of the compass just aft of the companionway hatch. Now, honestly, it's such a sort of common location for a compass on a traditional boat like this that it never even occurred to me that people might think it's an issue. It's really not an issue, I can tell you from experience, but it's been installed for a little while now actually, so I thought I'd check in with some of the crew if any of them have ever kicked it or it's ever been in the way. Hey Nick, it's George.
Hey.
Random question. How long's the compass been in the boat, very roughly?
Ooh, roughly
2 months.
God, do you even know?
month and a half.
Have you ever kicked it on your way out?
Never.
No, it's almost unnoticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of.
Comment rebuttal.
What happened?
Have you ever stubbed your toe on the compass?
Never.
Never.
No.
Who would do such
How
a
many
thing?
times have you walked past it, do you think?
At least 100 times a day.
I've probably
I
walked
gotta
past-
get my steps in.
Yeah.
I have hit my head on the boom
I
a
was
few
about to
times
say,
though, so
can we
let's
get
get
rid of
rid
the
of
boom?
that.
Yeah. That's the thing that I hit my head on all the time.
Yeah.
Now, as well as the compass, there's been some other really important deck hardware being installed recently, a lot of it by Bob. Now, these are cast bronze pieces from Port Townsend Foundry, and they're really beautiful pieces of hardware. First off, Bob has installed the sway hooks and the pin rail supports. Now, these are kind of brackets that go up to the pin rail, which in our case is part of the cap rail, and take the load down to the deck, and they're bolted down through the beam shelf, so a really strong part of the boat. And the reason for that is there can be quite considerable loads put on the pin rail with the halyards and so on, and so that load being transferred directly down into the structure of a boat is a really good thing. At the bottom of the pin rail supports is a hook, or we call that a sway hook, and the purpose of that hook is that you can flick a halyard underneath it, and then you can sweat the halyard, which means that instead of just pulling the halyard down, you're able to pull it horizontally, and in that way you get a lot more purchase on it, so you can actually put greater force on that line more easily. And then on the other side of the hook, someone else has to tail the line. You can do it yourself, but it's a little awkward, which just means holding it and then taking in the slack, so the person sweating pulls in, lets go, and as they let go, the person tailing pulls in the slack. So that's what a sway hook is, and there's several of those on each side so that you can put different halyards and lines on them. Incidentally, the phrase "don't sweat the small stuff" comes from sweating lines on a boat, because you don't want to sweat the small lines in the rig, the small stuff, because it's more delicate and it can break and be hard on the rig. So don't sweat the small stuff. Now, Bob has also installed the gammon iron. Now, the gammon iron is a really important piece of hardware that holds the bowsprit. It's a kind of hoop. It's bolted onto the side of the stem at the front of the boat, and the bowsprit, which, as you probably know, is a big spar that sticks out over the bow of the boat to take the tacks of various headsails. That goes through the gammon iron to the side of the stem, and in this case, it's a retractable or a shippable bowsprit. So the bowsprit can move fore and aft through the gammon iron and between the bits, and is supported by the gammon iron and various other pieces of hardware and rigging. We are getting ready to put the bowsprit in place. We've got quite a bit more work to do before then, but when we get there we will talk a lot more about how it's supported and the rigging systems and why it moves fore and aft. And the last bit of hardware that we're talking about today is a sort of transom fair lead. Now, Tally-Ho's tiller goes from the rudder stock through the transom, so there's an opening cut in the transom, and we also decided that we want to be able to use this opening as a fair lead to pass lines through, mooring lines for instance, or perhaps a towing line if Tally-Ho is towing a dinghy. So we decided to put a bronze fair lead in around that opening to make sure that any lines running through there don't chafe too much on the transom. Well, since the boat has been out of the shed, out in the real world, we've been pretty lucky with the weather, and we certainly don't mind the boat getting wet, but we do have a lot more work to do on the deck, and the weather is going to be getting worse, and it typically rains a lot here in the winter. So we are going to make a shelter over the boat, or at least over most of the deck, just to let us work more efficiently when it is raining day in, day out. So Zeal and Paddy are putting that up. It's going to mount on the bulwarks and be supported by the mast at one end and the mezzanine shed at the other, and hopefully it'll keep us dry. Do you think it's going to be just in time for the rain?
That's what we're hoping. Hoping for the next series of fronts to come through on Wednesday. Tomorrow's our next nice day, our last nice day for the foreseeable future, until March?
Until 2028.
Until March or April or something like that.
Does this count as a nice day?
Oh yeah. It's not raining. It's probably like 40 degrees. I mean, there wasn't even ice on the deck this morning.
Can you give us that in British?
I'm looking it up right now. 38 degrees says 3 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that's more
for
like
the people back in Bristol.
What's the carpet for?
The carpet is just a little feng shui, Thought it matches the drapes. It's a good
Drapes, Patrick.
It's a good
Does it?
And now that we're about to put the roof in, we can install the chimney. It's gonna be great. Finally get to do some bricklaying around here. So yeah, things are moving ahead at a steady pace.
So in conclusion, the carpet is to protect the cap rail.
That's right.
Okay, great, thanks.
Protect the cap rail, and the whole thing of what we're trying to do right here is we're trying to make the outside more like the inside. That's what we're going for.
Can you explain what that does real quick?
So this is quickie torch. It's propane, and when you heat up this type of plastic, it actually makes the plastic contract and shrink to make sure everything's nice and tight. That way it'll be able to form around odd shapes, and it'll just stay nice and firm so that it's not moving as much when The wind's blowing.
Oh, Mr. Shed.
Patrick Kingshill voted Mr. Shed 2023. If you can make one thing happen.
I would wish for all the children in the world to be able to read good and world peace.
Okay, well that is about it for now. Got a lot of work done recently, got a lot more work going on which hasn't been in the videos yet, and we got a lot more work to do, but at least we're covered now, we're ready for the winter, and we're forging ahead. So things are getting done, I'm feeling great about the project. Thanks for watching, and a massive, massive thank you to everyone who has donated or otherwise supported this project. It does make a huge difference. It means we're able to keep on doing this work, and we're able to keep on making and editing these videos. So I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.